Now that is some clear water right there. You got water visibility here, probably about 5 to 6 foot of water visibility. I consider this a clear water environment right here. Today we're going to be talking about fishing clear water and catching bass in clear water. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of the Fishing Teacher, and appreciate you guys joining me for a little on the water video here, guys. We're down at Table Rock Lake. It's November. Normally in the fall time of the year, the water's a little bit cleaner. As you can see right here, looking down there, nice and clear. Going to give you guys some good tips and advice for catching bass in clear water. So we're going to get into that in today's video. Also, guys, thank you very much for everybody that's taking time to check out that big Black Friday sale, guys, that Tackle Warehouse has got going on right now. If you're wanting to get you guys some good deals on tackle, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. 15-25% off on about anything at the Tackle Warehouse website. It's a good way to get some good deals right now. Link in the description there. And guys, also anybody interested in booking an on the water lesson with me here on Table Rock Lake, just go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, and you can shoot me a private message for details there. So appreciate that. Okay guys, now we could talk literally, we could talk all day long about, you know, the different situations and scenarios for catching bass in clear water. But I sort of want to give you guys sort of some good foundational advice about techniques and how bass react to clear water and good ways to catch them in that. Now this is, again, we could literally write a book on clear water and bass fishing, but I want to sort of skim the surface in today's video. Okay, first of all, bass are not scared or shy of being in clear water. It's like a bass ultimately, well, it's identified as a sunfish. And I have seen bass, all my life in 3 foot of water of bathtub clear gin water. It's like bass will use any type of water clarity if it suits their feeding capabilities. If the food is up there and the opportunistic for feeding or survival is in that shallow clear water, they're going to be there. Not to say they like to live there, because bass does like to live around some type of object. They like to live around shade. They like to live suspended out over deep water. They like to live in deeper water. They feel safer around deeper water or some type of cover, but that does not keep them out of shallow water. So, you know, don't feel that bass get spooked by being in shallow clear water, even on a, bright sunny day like this with no wind. You can see them up there. I can't tell you how many bass down here. I'm down here at Table Rock at one of the marinas. Guys, I've seen thousands of bass. I've been down here for 50 years. I've seen thousands of bass swimming like in a foot of water right there. So I know they like to live up in that area. Okay, so here's some generalities that I want to talk to you about catching bass in clear water and sort of what bass do with it. Bass, how you catch bass in clear water, it's sort of complicated. There's a lot of different variables and nuances to it. And a lot of the techniques that you use are based upon the light intensity that you're having in correlation with that clear water and the water temperature. Those are two really big factors for that. Now, a couple different things. This is sort of going to be just sort of a wide ranging, hodgepodge of info here. But one of the realities that you're going to have in clear water lakes is that bass use a lot of different water depths in a clear water lake. If you've got a clear water lake like Table Rock Lake here, the clarity of this lake changes constantly depending upon environmental factors. A lot of times, springtime of the year something, and we get some heavy flood rains, the lake comes up 10 or 12 foot, the whole lake can get off colored for months. But if you have some stable factors like we've had here recently, the lake starts to settle down and clear off. And once you do get a situation where you have a lot of clear water throughout the lake, based upon the water temperature, the bass are going to use anywhere between 2 foot of water to 80 foot of water. I've caught bass on clear water lakes down to 60 feet deep, and I've caught them in a foot of water before, and I've caught them suspended. Now, the more clear water that you have in a man-made lake, the more that you're going to have bass that suspend. That's one of the realities of it. So sorry about the little glitch, guys. There, I actually filmed the whole video and I accidentally turned the camera off. So I'm going to have to start up where I left off there. We were talking about suspended bass in clear water. Okay, now one of the realities about a clear water lake is you're going to have bass in a lot of different depth zones. And like I said, there's going to be half of the population of a bass almost all year long, with the exception of the springtime, that are suspended out over deep water. Those fish have been out there forever. That's their deep water sanctuary. And what they do most of the time is you'll have like a little wolf pack of bass, maybe 3 to 10 bass, and they find themselves a big shad school out there roaming out in open water. They live with those shad and they follow them for months and months and months. And when, once every 2 or 3 days, they get hungry and they'll charge up there, grab a mouthful of shad, and those shad will scatter. Then they pull back and they start following the shad again. Everybody's peaceful, nobody's stressed out. And once every day or so, they come up and get them some shad. There's this symbiotic relationship that exists for suspended bass and shad. The other 50% of the bass in the lake, guys, are distributed in different depth zones shallower than that. They are in 2 foot of water, they're in 10 foot of water, they're in 20 foot of water, they're in 60 foot of water, depending upon the actual visibility of the water temperature, and the thermocline situation. So that is what makes fishing in clear water a big challenge, because you don't have that in off-colored water situations. Off-colored lakes, the bass live shallower, they're in less than 10 foot of water. You don't have to worry about that, but you have that to deal with in a clear water lake. So here's some factors to consider with that. First of all, the techniques that you fish, unless you're fishing for suspended bass out in really deep water, are very weather dependent. Clear water bass are the most sensitive to weather patterns versus the technique that you have. And I think a lot of people understand that one of the basic bass premises is in clear water, if you have a low light day, say it's cloudy, if it's windy, if it's raining, bass are going to chase more. And that's why in those situations, your moving baits like your spinner baits and your chatter baits and your top waters, crankbaits and swim baits are really productive. And on a day like today, it's a bluebird sky, there's no wind out here, you're going to have a hard time catching one, fishing like that. Say for example, we come out here with a Zara spook right now and cast water temperature 60 degrees. We're probably never going to get a bite right here on a Zara spook under these conditions. But if tomorrow we come out here this time of day and it's mist and rain, it's cloudy, we might catch 5 or 10 bass. That is how active or inactive those fish get based upon the weather patterns. Because it doesn't take anything, say for example, those bass are living up underneath this boat dock here on this bright sunny day. It doesn't take anything for a bass, it takes them 2 seconds to swim from that dock to the bank to look for some perch or some minnows down in that shallow water on a low light condition. So bass are very, very weather dependent in clear water more than anything else. And traditionally, like I said, those low light days, your moving baits are going to be better. On a day like this, your bottom baits like your shaky heads and your Ned rigs and your jigs are going to be better because those fish do not want to come up and chase a bait. Now, this is one of the paradoxes in fishing that I'm getting ready to talk about, because bass fishing, and if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll hear a lot of contradictions, because that is not the case all the time. What I just described to you may be the case 75% of the time. That's a reality of it. There's another 25% of the time, guys, where I have caught big strings of fish fishing bright chartreuse and white lures on a bright sunny day in clear water just like this. A lot of it depends on the fish species. It depends on the mood and personality of the fish. But nevertheless, that is one of the unpredictable factors about bass fishing that you have to realize when you're fishing clear water. I cannot give you an easy answer on how to determine that. A lot of it just depends on that particular day, and you have to experiment a little bit. Now, sometimes, water temperature can have a factor with that, or like how close the fish are or away from the spawn. There's other factors that we could do other videos on. But most of the time, I stay with that 75%, and then I'll experiment to some extent with some other things. And a lot of times, how you figure that out is by accident. Now, let me give you an example of how I like to fish clear water, because I grew up fishing around it here in Missouri. I will stay with those 75% of the techniques most of the time, like the slow baits and the shaky heads on a day like today, and the crankbaits and the moving baits on a cloudy, windy type day. However, based upon how my day's going, if I'm being successful or not, I may try something a little bit off the wall. Say, for example, I come in this cove here and I'm getting a lot of bites on a shaky head today. Bright sunny conditions, not much wind, and I'm getting bit on a shaky head. I'm catching a lot of 2-pounders. I know there's a lot of fish up there. Since I know there's fish there, that's when I may try something off the wall. I may pull out a bright pearl colored Zara spook or walking topwater throw it out there a little bit to see if they're on it. Or I may take a big glide bait or something like that, chunk it out there because I know there's some fish, and see how they react to that. That is how you get on new stuff. That's how you develop new patterns. That's how you have success above and beyond what other people do, is trying something just on a whim that may or may not apply to the situation that you're fishing. Another thing, guys, if I could give you the most important element in clear water bass fishing, you have got to make long casts. Bass in clear water are spooky, they're finicky, they're very wary, they're very smart, they can see. If there's a bass in swimming in this right here, which I've seen tons of them here before, they can see you up on this dock. So don't think you're spooking up on them. Try to make the longest cast you possibly can. If we come over here, like, you know, to that jet ski float right there, and if I cast a plastic worm over there from 20 foot away like I'm here right now, I'm probably not gonna get a bite. But if I back off to 50, 60 feet away and make a cast over there, more than likely I'm gonna get a bite with that. That's the nature of clear water bass, is you have to make long casts. And probably, if there's one mistake that I see anglers make, is they don't do that. Now, I don't mean making a cast so long that you can't control the bait. I mean, it's so far out there that you can't do it. But try to make the longest cast possible. That's really gonna help you out. But main thing, guys, is don't get intimidated by clear water. Man, clear water bass fishing is one of the funnest ways to catch bass. And if you gave me my rathers, I want to fish real clear water because I love watching fish. That's the coolest thing about fishing in clear water like this, is you see the whole food chain. You see the minnows, you see the perch, you see the different types of perch, you see little bitty bass, you see big bass, you see crawdads in the water. It's really cool visually watching the cycle of life on the bank in shallow water. That's one of the reasons I'm so adamant about being anti-tech, because you don't see that. It's like when you're out spotlighting for bass in 80 foot of water, you don't see all the life that's going up here shallow. That's just one of the most appealing things about bass fishing to me. So anyway, guys, just a few tips on clear water bass fishing. If it sounds like I was all over the place and it's confusing, that's because it is. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of contradictions and paradoxes when it comes to bass fishing on any topic. Bass do what they want to do, and they are unpredictable. And they're predictable to some extent, but basically it's all about their mood and their personality on that day. And that's something you don't want to learn all that. It's like, how boring would it be, guys, if we could come out here right now and we knew so much about bass to say we knew exactly what to do. It's like there was no mystery whatsoever. There was nothing unknown about it. We knew exactly where to go. We knew exactly what to throw. We knew exactly where to cast. If you lived in that reality of bass fishing where there were no unknowns, it would diminish the sport to a point where you probably would lose interest in it. It'd be like the same if you went to Las Vegas to play blackjack and every single hand you won. You know, I'm not talking about how much money, but you won every single hand. It would eventually be a living hell. I think there was one. There was an old show used to call The Twilight Zone. A lot of you younger guys have never heard of it, but a Twilight Zone was like, it was a show that was sort of like a horror show a little bit, but it was like situations, like unreal situations. And there was this one show I remember, there was this one guy that's what it was. It's like, you know, he was a gambler and he was always losing. He was down on his luck and he could never win anything gambling. And eventually, I can't remember if he made a deal with the devil or something, what it was. You know, he just wanted to be rich and win all the time. So that happened. He went to, started gambling and he won every hand. It's like he'd never lose. He'd win every single hand. And eventually it was fun for him for about a day. And after that, it started making him insane. It's like it literally became a living hell for him because he won every time. It's the same in bass fishing. If you came out here and you caught a bunch of fish every time you went out and there was no unknowns, it would be a living hell for you. So don't ever underestimate the importance of having bad days and not knowing what the bass do and being frustrated about fishing, because that's what keeps it fresh and that's what makes it fun. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll talk later.